Hey, I'm Sarah Hodges, and this is Executives Uncut, a podcast where we provide solutions for the corporate cycle of hell. Now, today we're talking about getting buy in from your employees, and I'm here with Ben Winfield, Director of Channel Partnerships and Strategy at Rover Analytics. Ben is also the host of The Benefit Show, where I appeared last week, and it was super fun. Welcome, Ben.
Hey, what's up? Good to see you again.
Good to see you. So Ben and I have been hanging out once in a while via Zoom. He invited me to be on his podcast a couple weeks ago where we talked about a licensed coach versus a life coach. And then we had so much to talk about afterward. We're like, let's hang out and have like a coffee and whiskey date because you don't drink coffee, right?
I don't drink coffee, not at all. But I do have my whiskey today, so we're good. I'm all
set. Let's go. We're both ready. I have my special coffee makes me poop cup, which I use all the time. And I have not shown it in the podcast yet.
Well, and I also, today is Marine Corps birthday. I'm a former Marine. So I do want to do a shout out and happy birthday, Marines, 245 years. So happy birthday.
Amazing. And you said you guys party pretty hard in those Marine Corps birthday.
Yeah, it's like prom for adults, basically. You got 100 of your closest friends celebrating their same birthday together. All the Marines are in their dress blues, girls in evening gowns, or husbands in suits, and it's one big adult party. So yeah, pretty fun.
That's awesome. Justin, show the picture from, what did you say, 2004? When you
2003, right when we got back from Iraq. Oh my God. Baby face Ben, look at that.
Baby face Ben. Aw, so handsome all of you guys in your dress blues.
Yeah, we should be. I mean, we just got back from serving in Iraq. We all lost a bunch of weight in the hot desert working. So, definitely a little slimmer back then.
Yeah, well, and that's a good segue into, I asked you to be a guest on this podcast when we were chatting about leadership, and you told me that you learned a really unique approach to leadership as a Marine Corps reservist, right, in Iraq?
Yeah.
So can you share your insights with our audience and get them acquainted with that experience?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So the first thing people always think is, Marines just do what they're told. Storm that hill, we storm the hill. And that's like true for the most part. That's what they teach us in boot camp. That's what activate people. But when you have reservists that they signed up just for their college money maybe, or they kind of wanted to help out but didn't, and now they've been in the corporate world or they've been working other jobs, they're not used to the idea of do it just because I said so anymore. Right. So to get them to actually do a task, it goes way beyond just do it because I said so. In fact, like, have people that are like, I'm in a desert fighting a war I don't want to be in. I'm in the heat. I already get no sleep. What can you do to me? What punishment can you? I don't want to do it. Right. So what I learned was the classic example of firsthand what actually motivates these people. You got some Marines that they're motivated by, I need this for my safety. Okay, we need to fill sandbags to build this bunker because we might need to hide in it and it will save our lives. Oh, okay. Now they're excited to go fill sandbags, right?
Sure.
But there are other people that are just like, I just don't want to do this. And so you got to give them the lesser of two evils. Like, okay, well, we can fill sandbags now, or we can do guard duty tonight. Like, which one would you rather do? And like, oh, okay, let's go fill sandbags, right? So you learn what motivates people, and then you have to appeal based on that when I go talk to them. So I'd have like 6 different conversations as to what we're about to go do instead of just walking in and say, we got to go fill sandbags, let's go, right? Because that doesn't work.
Right. That's so funny because you would expect, like you said, that in the Marine Corps, you'd just be like, go fill sandbags. And they'd say, yes, sir. But apparently once you got out there in the desert, people were like, no, I'm not doing that. Well, and so how did that lesson in the Marines help you become a better leader in other areas of your life?
Well, I'd tell you, so I've translated that obviously when I started working as a firefighter as well. Firefighter is kind of a paramilitary structure as well, but you learn really quick, same thing. Nobody likes to be told what to do, right? So you learn different people. And motivation isn't just pay, right? I used to have that's all that he thought, like, well, you got a pay raise. You guys should be happy. And it's like, no, that's not what motivates people. Money is not what motivates most people. Some people, but not most people.
Some people.
Right. I'll even take it a step further. Like that lesson, I think, has made me a better parent. We've talked about this. I have 4 kids, and raising my kids, you can't just yell at them. You can't say, do this because I said so. No kid, especially a teenager, right? Nobody listens to that. So you have to actually appeal to them and know them. And luckily with my kids, I know I'm pretty good, right? So I know each one, what motivates them. Oh, well, this one, if I say you get to see your girlfriend after this, he's a little more likely to get it done, right? So it really has translated into my personal life and my professional life, that concept. Yeah.
Yeah. So with among the firefighters, how do you communicate with them in the same way to get their buy-in? What's
Right.
a good
So
example?
there is a distinct difference. So at the fire station, when we're on a fire scene, like I'm the lieutenant, you do what I say now. There's no time to second guess me unless it's a safety. Everybody's allowed to stop safety. Like, hey, that wall's about to collapse. We're not going in that door. Okay, thank you. I didn't see that. Right. So, but other than a safety issue, they have to do it, right? But I get that respect because when we're not in that, then it's the same thing. I can appeal to them. And some of the ways too is including them in the decision making, right? So, hey, we have to get this task done today. Do you guys want to do it before lunch or do you want to do it after lunch? I'm giving them a choice, but at the end of the day, they don't really have a choice. We still got to do the project, right? So the same concept with my high schooler. You want to do the dishes before playing basketball or after playing basketball, right? So I'm giving them choices so that they are part of the process. But at the end of the day, they're still doing what I need them to do, right? So,
so I'm hearing that there are like two different styles of leadership that come out. One in times of, let's say, like peace, or when there's not an immediate crisis. In an immediate crisis, whether it's a proverbial fire or in your case a real fire, they better just freaking do what they're told. And understandable, right? You're a leader for a reason. But other times you don't have to give directives. You can offer alternatives. You can offer choices. Share with them the reason why they're doing what they're doing, and that will go a long way. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, nobody likes to work for a dictator. I mean, let's just get real. Kids don't want that. Adults don't want that. So giving them options when you can is important. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes your hands are tied. You have budget constraints. You can't just offer them anything out there on the market. You got to buy within the budget, and that might limit your options, right? So there are things that you're tied to, but any time that you can give them that option and they'll respect you even more when you can't, because they know that, oh, if he could give me a choice here, he would. So he can't. So, okay, I'll go along with it. So it helps you in those moments by doing it when you have the option to. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then, so why do you think that some leaders think this approach is too soft?
Because they want to be the dictator. They want to be that authority. They want to have that power to say, hey, I'm promoted. I'm in charge. I'm the smart one. Do what I say. Right. And that just doesn't work. I mean, some people, they have that power trip mentality. And I think even if they don't have a power trip, I think sometimes people just get in that mode of just like, well, I'm promoted. I'm in that position. Therefore, what I say should go. And that's the expectation. And also, it takes time. It does take more time to actually include people and to actually have a joint decision, or to give them options, or to have to go to 6 different groups and tell them 6 different stories. That's why you have to fill sandbags, right? But I believe that taking that time up front is going to make it go smoother and be more effective on the other end. So I'm willing to put in that time up front. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and do you think that if you put that time in up front, they're more likely to say yes without questioning you later, because they know that you have their best interest at heart?
That's it. You build that rapport, and it's like everybody says, right? You can't force respect. Respect is earned. So when you're doing things like this and you've earned their respect and they trust you and they believe in you, that's the inspirational leadership style that I like, because then when I can't give them, they know that I still would if I could, right? And so they're willing to do it without getting that option. So it translates to both.
Yeah. So what would you say to one of those leaders who says, well, I hired them for a job to do and they should do the job that I hired them to do?
Well, at the end of the day, they're a human, right? I mean, we can't forget that people are human. We are not robots. We are not systematic. We have emotions. And that's the thing. I mean, obviously, like, I'm really big on emotional intelligence and paying attention to people and the actual person. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, you hired them for a job, but they're still a person. And so showing interest in them, getting to know them, and that's what it takes to know how to appeal to their motives. I got to know what their motives are, which means I have to actually have a conversation with them now and then about who they are and what they actually want. And sometimes that can be in a formal setting. You can actually have a formal review or a formal sit down and actually go over questions like that. Well, what are you looking for out of this company? What are you looking for? What are your goals in the next few years, right? You get that insight, and then you know how to appeal to that and help them. And then they know that you have their best interests in mind. And that's all great stuff. So,
Yes, Totally. So then what does somebody do when they're, say, an upper level manager, right? So they're kind of executive level, but they still report to the C-suite, and let's say they work for a CEO who has that do as I say, or just do it, right? Approach. I pay you for a job, just get it done. How
Yeah.
can they change the dialogue with that CEO? What do you think? What would you do?
I mean, if I was in that spot and I had to talk to the CEO, I mean, I'm one of those people that I build rapport on up and down. And so by building rapport with the CEO, then I know how to approach him, right? But it's the same thing. I got to know what motivates him and I got to know what makes that CEO tick. So I know how to approach him, right? Some CEOs, I would have to go in and kind of just like, hey, we need to have a talk about this. And I need to show a strong presence in my body language and tone and everything, because that's what he responds to. And others, it's like, hey, can we talk today? I got a concern and I need to approach you, right? So it really is knowing your CEO as well. It still falls back on partly that emotional intelligence and what motivates them. So you can appeal to how you talk to them. So, I mean, one of the classes I took was all about style flexing. And, some people, the same thing. They're like, well, that's like you're not being yourself. And I'm like, no, I am being myself. I'm just learning how to approach that person better. And so, I think that's a huge part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you intuitively recognize that, because I do talk a lot in coaching about recognizing someone else's emotional needs and leading a conversation from that place. And you can do that leading up or leading down. You can do that in a conversation with your superior or your team member or your staff member. So cool. So, if more leaders led with this approach, how do you think organizations would change as a result?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think you're going to have more production. You're going to have happier employees. You're going to have people that are doing what they need to get done. Because at the end of the day, we all have parts of our job that we hate to do. Okay. So at Rover Analytics, I'm in charge of channel partnerships. I talk to people all the time. When I'm done talking to them, I'm supposed to go to the CRM and write notes about the conversation.
Oh, that's the worst.
I hate that. It sucks, right?
Me too.
But the happier I am and the better the day goes, the more likely I'm going to write my notes, right? So it's little things like that as you approach someone and you give them buy-in, they're more likely to do it. Sometimes it's just explaining the why. And so I understand, I actually understand why I need to write those notes. Okay, fine, I'm going to do it, right? So it's just really understanding the person, talking to them. And when you do that, that's how the company's going to improve. Everybody does everything better. So yeah, I think companies really benefit from that.
And I didn't plan on asking you this question, but because of the fact that you came from the Marine Corps, I'm wondering, if more leaders led with this approach, and so more companies started expecting this approach, right, and more employees started expecting this approach, and they started using it in their homes and using it in their communities, how do you think society will change as a result? The big question.
Yeah, that's big, but I would just think like everybody would be happier. There'd be less conflict. I mean, I think about my home and I know when I've been not leading the right way. I can know, and honestly, like I can see to my kids' responses if I've been the one that's been focusing my attention on treating them properly. When I'm stressed and I'm at home and I'm just like, kids, I need you to do it, go get it done, and I'm short with them, I see their response and I see how they act, and then I see how they treat each other and they get in bickering. So I think it really is a cascading effect beyond business, that if we really treated people that way and approached and appealed to their motives and we actually gained their buy-in for things, man, what a world we'd live in, right? What a world.
It's really fun to think about that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty
So
cool.
cool. Yeah. So I know you have some coaching tips for us. Should we talk about them?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, Justin, put the first one up.
Yeah. I mean, I think like it's kind of a building block approach. And I think the first thing is to know your team. I mean, you got to know what motivates them. You got to know, are they looking for the next promotion, so that you know how to appeal to them to help them prepare for that promotion. You got to know if they're a person that like just wants to get the work done as soon as possible so that they can kick their feet up and take the rest of the day off. Okay, well then let's plan according to that. So that's kind of the first thing, is knowing what actually motivates them so that you know how to appeal them and how to approach them when you need them to do a task, especially something that you're dumping onto their lap, right? It's not their normal job. It's not the normal day. I got to come up and do this. I got to know what motivates them so I know how to dump it in their lap and actually get them to actually do what I need them to do. So
yeah. Well, and question before we move on to the next one, how do you recommend finding out what motivates them?
Well, obviously part of it is observation. You just, part of it is understanding people and paying attention. But really the easiest way is to fucking ask them. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. Just be like, what motivates you?
Yeah, like
seriously,
like what are you looking for, and what do you want out of this job, or what's your goals, and asking them things like that, or knowing some about their personal life helps, but especially at work, like what are your work goals? What do you want? Do you want more projects? Do you just want to not be bugged? Do you want to just keep your head down? I mean, just asking those questions, you can learn a lot about a person by literally asking. So
awesome. All right, number 2.
We all hear about the why, right? Like, and that's important to know the why, but I kind of think that we should take it that step further and actually explain the why in regards to actually what motivates them. So again, if you've got that employee that likes to get the work done early so that they can they're going to be a hard worker and they're going to give you everything they got until the project's done so that they can relax. And versus somebody else that just wants to steadily do it all day, right? If you know that's who they are, then explain the why. Like, hey, we're going to do this project now, and we're going to do it in the morning so that we can get it done and take the afternoon off, right? So knowing how to appeal to that why, to appeal to that motive with your why, like I think that's the next level. Yes, you got to give them why of the mission, but if you can even appeal it to them, like they're like, oh, that totally makes sense. I want the afternoon off, so I'm going to give you everything I got this morning, right? So.
Yeah, that makes total sense because sometimes the why of an organization or a mission can be so elusive. Like, here's our objective. It doesn't mean that they've bought into it, but when you tie it into their values, you kind of like suck them right in. That's a great observation. I love it. Awesome tip. Number 3.
Number 3, and this is a big one, and I've seen this fail so many times, is you got to include stakeholders in decision making. And sometimes that means including, especially if you can, your objectors. The people that are the biggest complainers and gripes, those are the people you want helping make the decision, because you know what? They're going to be the big champion of that change for you, because now they've made the decision and they don't want to look dumb and they don't want to sound like they didn't make the right decision. So you want to do this, and they realize by being a part of the decision that, you know what? This option sucks, but it was our best option. Now when other people are complaining, they're the ones saying, no, guys, this was our best option. And they're now your advocate. And so now all these other people are like, oh, well, if Joe, who always complains, is saying that this was our best option, then this really was our best option, right? So that's a big tactic. I always try to include those people that like to gripe and say like, all right, come help us figure out this problem,
Yes, and they get a say, and they're not going to gripe about something that they get a say in.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then having that buy-in, having them part of the conversation just adds to their buy-in, right? Because they feel like they were heard, they were part of the process. It's huge. And I believe even external stakeholders are important. If you have a process or decision that you're going to make and it actually impacts people outside of your organization, then if you can, bring someone from them in to help you with that process, because that's going to build your better relation too. So, yeah, great.
Yes, that is such an awesome tip. I love it. And what you said about if they're heard, right? If they're part of the process, really that alone gets buy-in from people, even if you don't have to take into consideration their macro goals and like where they want to be in 10 years, that's cool. But if they're just heard and part of the process and they feel like they can contribute, that goes a long way.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, based on everything that you've taught us, we have a coaching challenge for today. So for everyone listening, all right, the next time you give a directive, explain why it matters. All right, explain why it would matter to them. Your staff member will be much more inspired to complete a task that contributes to the mission of your organization or their own personal mission than a task that feels like busy work. Nobody wants to do a task that feels like busy work. Awesome. So thanks for these amazing tips. Where can our viewers find out more about you?
Well, I am the host, as you mentioned earlier, of the Benefit Show. We have a podcast, which my team came up with, which I love because that's my name in the title. And it's the background just says Ben everywhere floating around. I'm like, oh, you guys love me. So, yeah, so I do have my own show on YouTube. I'm on LinkedIn as well. Roveranalytics.com. You can check out what we're doing there. And that's it, man. I'm here and there and everywhere. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, a huge thanks to you. And, one last question. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, right? It's tomorrow. I'm not crazy. And I want to thank you and everyone who has fought for our country. But I'd like to know from your perspective as a veteran, what is the best way that Americans can show appreciation for you?
Oh, man. I'll be honest, veterans take that in a lot of different ways, right? Some people want to hear thank yous, and some people it makes them uncomfortable to hear a thank you. And I'll even say that the fire service, when people say thank you to us, I have some firefighters that I've worked with that they're like, oh, they get weird by it. They're like, I'm just doing my job, right? And we didn't do it for the thanks, honestly. But I would still say thank you, because even those people that kind of don't know how to respond, it just shows that you care and you notice. And that's it. We've all seen veterans that are forgotten and veterans that have suffered injuries, and they've sacrificed way more than I have for this country. And just don't forget them. That's it. That's my big takeaway. Don't forget. So
don't forget.
Don't forget.
So just
say thank
remember.
you. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Ben, for serving our country. And thank you to all veterans out there who are listening to our podcast today. And thanks for tuning in to this episode of Executives Uncut. And for listening to Ben, thank you for joining us, Ben. I have a lot of thanks today. Yeah. So if you guys enjoyed this content, make sure to subscribe, share with someone who would benefit from this talk. And right? Yeah, a little plug. Don't forget to visit hodgescoaching.com for new episodes, or follow us pretty much anywhere on social, although still not Twitter, at Hodges Coaching on, let's see, we're on Instagram, LinkedIn. You'll find us. I am Sarah Hodges. I'll see you next week. And don't forget to thank a veteran tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.